Sea of Stars is special. Partially inspired by Chrono Trigger, it wonderfully channels the classic 16-bit era of RPGs, with an even more gorgeous art style and compelling battle mechanics, while offering so much more at the same time. It tells an emotional tale that at times is cozy, and at others daunting. I laughed, I cried, and everything in between. Although the overall story may seem like your usual run-of-the-mill, we gotta save the world type, it's filled with so many twists and turns that it kept me on the edge of my seat throughout the 30-hour adventure. Part of what makes it great is the chummy feel it captures of a ragtag group of adventurers all banding together for a common goal. Because I fell in love with nearly every one of the main party members. Take Garl for instance, who's the main character's best friend from childhood, and wielding a cooking pot lid as a weapon because of his love for cooking. And he alone offers countless wholesome moments that brought a smile to my face, like how he basically sneaks his way into joining you on your dangerous adventure. He's an unlikely hero and almost like the Samwise Gamgee of Sea of Stars. Then there's Saray, a mysterious teleporting ninja with a compelling story that just keeps getting deeper and deeper. Even the side characters are entertaining, like the one that plays on the tropes of JRPGs in a comically tongue-in-cheek way by pointing out how we're going from town to town just to purchase incrementally better gear, or a pirate mage that found out he can cast spells in a hilarious way that I'll leave for you to find out. Unfortunately, the two main characters, Zale and Valir, are probably the weakest of the bunch, as they come across as fairly one-note with little deviation from their "we're the good guys" attitude. But that's easy to forget about in light of the strength of the rest of the cast. It's difficult to touch on what makes this story so great without diving into spoilers, but it was constantly tugging at my heartstrings, both with tons of cute and wholesome moments, but also deeper and more emotional beats that hit me like a ton of bricks. It created a nearly intangible feeling with me, as only a truly great story can. The gameplay backs it up too, both in exploration and combat, especially with no random encounters or grinding to interrupt your flow. When it comes to combat, you have plenty of options at Sea of Stars, including basic attacks, skills, combos, and ultimates, all available to you. Basic attacks feature a Paper Mario-like timing element, where tapping an attack at the right moment will score another hit. The simple timing mechanic kept me engaged even when facing the weakest enemies, which is something that I find a lot of JRPGs fail to do. Also, basic attacks contribute to your combo meter, in addition to dropping orbs that will imbue your character's attack with their element, which can be effective against specific enemies weak to it. Skills are the abilities that use MP, and they also build your ultimate meter, and some of these ultimate attacks look absolutely fantastic. Combos are my favourite part. They change based on which characters you have out in your party, and even better, they're really useful in cancelling enemy special attacks by strategically dealing a certain type of damage within a set time to break the locks above them. This system especially shined during boss fights as I cancelled their powerful attacks. It also ensured that I was constantly assessing who was in my party and when to save up combos to dish out the correct damage type to be as efficient as possible. Taken all together, the varied systems ensured I was constantly on my toes in combat. Furthermore, Sea of Stars has an impressive amount of enemy variety and avoids the cliche of having repetitive enemy types by reusing the palette swap versions across regions, like a green slime for a forest or a blue slime for an icy tundra. I even went so far as to deliberately avoid breaking the lock on a new enemy, so I could make sure to see what cool attacks they had in store. Although I rarely found the difficulty overly challenging outside of a few boss fights, the game features a relic system that essentially allows you to adjust the difficulty to your like. You can buy them in shops and then toggle them on or off to either make the game easier by enabling things like auto healing after battle or increasing your defense. It's a great system because it gives us the choice to tailor the experience to our like, and at times I turned on the auto heal relic after battle because it's quite tedious using healing items or using healing spells to heal up your party and then have to go all the way back to a campfire just to rest. It doesn't take away from the difficulty, it just makes the game slightly less tedious. But specifically, the only issue I have with this relic system is that the auto heal after battle relic also increased your maximum health by 100%, and I would have preferred if I had the option to just turn on auto heal after battle rather than also having plus 100% health. Regardless, I still love the combat system, but I think I would have had just as much fun if I had used the easy relics to effectively turn on easy mode and just sat back and enjoyed the story. Sea of Stars truly feels like a globe-trotting adventure, without feeling overwhelming, as I was constantly rewarded for my curiosity either through a hidden collectible, ingredients for cooking, or even something as big as a whole new skill that a character can use in battle. You have a grappling hook and a wind gauntlet, and when standing on these pedestals you can change the time of day. Once again, I can't go into specifics, but the game gives you plenty to do in exploration, either because of these new abilities, or how the game built upon them with new implementations, or mixing or matching all three. And I was always rewarded for doing the extra bits too. It was a combination of stuff to find, vibrant visuals, and simple yet fun puzzles that made exploration so fun. I'm not a massive fan of puzzles, but if these were harder, it would have hurt the stellar pacing of the game, and no area outstayed its welcome. The dungeons were short but not too short, and there was a perfect blend of combat encounters, exploration, and puzzles in each new place I visited. It also helped that the towns I visited had intriguing backstories like a haunted town, where a random siren call would lure an unsuspecting resident to their death. Now I want to dedicate a whole point to the pacing of this game, as it's nearly perfected. I found myself continually swapping from combat to exploration to story sections at a regular pace, preventing anyone from going on for too long. And as a result, I'd play for hours and hours on end and have no idea where the time went half a day later. Of course, no JRPG would be complete without something to distract you from the main plot, as Sea of Stars has plenty to offer. The best stuff is accessed near the end of the game, but I'll save the surprise for you to discover. I'll just say there's a lot to do. But before you reach the end, I already mentioned the magic conches that are found throughout the world, but there's also cooking, which allows you to make use of the ingredients you found while exploring to create crucial restoratives that are a must for challenging boss fights. There's also a fishing minigame that is easy and relaxing, and I like the short distraction it gave. It was also super useful for cooking, as some of the better meals needed fish. The main side objective is a game of chance called Wheels. You pick 2 units and then you roll the wheel. You have 3 attempts at spinning your wheels down the bottom, and in between rolls you can lock any of the choices into place. The orange squares either level up your character or charge their attack, the blue diamonds do the same to the character on the right, and then the hammer builds up your defensive walls. The first person to deal 10 damage to their opponent wins. Each tavern has a champion you have to beat, and you'll get a new piece after beating them. Now, I will admit I typically don't like board games and video games, but I did have fun in this one, and at the very least it's easy to understand. This game is absolutely stunning, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but I knew I was in for a treat when I saw young Zale and Valir simply going for a walk. Just look at how smooth their animation is. It feels like a 16-bit era game on steroids. The perspective also adds an interesting visual flair with a nice contrast between things above and below the character. And my eyes were darting all over trying to take in everything, because it simply looked amazing. All of this is bolstered by an insane lighting system, giving everything that extra bit of visual polish, especially when exploring dimly lit caves. And the best part is that you can change the time of day on the fly to see how areas look, and the difference is night and day, which also plays a part in some fun puzzles too. I wasn't around in 1995 to play Chrono Trigger, and playing Sea of Stars reminded me of how people must have felt back then when playing Chrono Trigger for the first time. There are a few examples of throwback titles that match or exceed the classics they are inspired by, but Sea of Stars does that and more, with a wonderful combat system, tons of enemy variety, a strong cast of diverse characters, and an adventure filled with twists and turns that kept the intrigue alive across a nearly perfectly paced 30-hour adventure. Absolutely no time was wasted and no expense was spared. The animations, graphics, lighting and music are some of the best examples of what a modern take on a 16-bit inspired game can be. While I had high hopes for Sea of Stars, I thought it wouldn't break into my top games of the year, but it surprised me in so many ways. And it's for all these reasons that I'm giving it my first ever mind blown. It's coming to Game Pass and PS Plus, as well as releasing on Steam and Switch, so you have no excuses but to play it. I really appreciate you watching. I would love to know if you're going to pick up Sea of Stars. Comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next video.